But in a few of these different types of games, where it's like the animated style behind it, I figured I'd give it a shot and see how it goes. I'll just jump right into it. Leaves. Game will autosave before. Thank you for playing early access. Nice. Okay. Your mouse is being weird. Unlock each character ending by choosing wisely to send each chapter. You'll be shown a progress summary per character. Nice. Ooh, that's pretty. I get off the bus at a street corner while an old saying ran through my head. Anyone who lives within their means suffers from lack of imagination. By then I had to waste yet another weekend fruitlessly inquiring the local businesses of part-time employment. You should have tried during harvest, they replied, regretfully. If they didn't just laugh in my face. Ouch. I was beginning to run out of options. I feel that. Due to the setbacks of my father's work at the same that had led him to slash my weekly allowance. Oof. We were forced to relocate to whatever that is. An agricultural town with low cost of living. To me, it felt like the apocalypse. I had lost my home, my friends, my indulgent city life, and now I can't even find a part-time job. Moving would suck. I mean, I've done it a couple times, but like, it sucks. But in retrospect, I'll admit these were peaceful days where money was the greatest problem of my carefree mind. Ooh, it's nighttime. And it's daytime. That was before I realized I had a stalker. How about we don't do that? Hello. Can I help you? Leaves present. I have known a great light in the sea. Have you seen the eyes of little Leviathan? No, I've not. I would like to keep it that way, thank you. These tombs have witnessed the dawn of man and centuries look upon us now. Okay. A boundless mass of human being flowing the stream without banks. What is happening? Oh. I'm just gonna turn on the game volume a little bit. There we go. Hi. Ina. Their name is Ina. Okay. I saw you lording around the stores yesterday. You better admit it. Admit what? What did I do? Her name was Ina, a strange, determined girl. Though she was in the same class as I wouldn't be able to say who her friends were. Probably because I don't know her. I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about? They say a man is only good for his labor. I just got the thing for you. Oh, what? Okay. Please follow me up to my office. Are you like a teacher or something? Is that what's happening? I hope you guys can still hear the music. Followed her in a small cluttered room that was situated next to the teacher's lounge. I'm assuming she's a teacher. It's so unbearably hot in here. Let me take off that horrible uniform. What? Oh. Gracelessly, she removed her vest and jersey, crumpling them into a ball which she dropped into the corner of the room. Okay. Why are we doing that? I don't understand why they're making us wear viscose. It's practically tropical outside. It's fair. She turned to me. Hello. You're anxious to get started, right? Let me explain what your duties will entail. I need someone to deliver a newspaper. Don't worry, I can see the panic forming in your eyes. Brains, however, entirely optional for this job. Okay. She cut me off. If there's one thing this village is famous for, it's the stellar quality of our newspaper, the Sunday Abbot, or at least it is since I took over as editor-in-chief. Oh. The Abbot doesn't play games, you know. 4th place in the national ranking of school papers, an honorable mention by the Evening Mirror. I didn't know we had a school paper. A school paper? We're much more than that. Crime, corruption, unsolved mysteries. Did you know that we were the first to break the news of Stanford House affair? Sanford, my apologies. No, I did not. And I have much more up my sleeve. Okay, so it's a school thing. So what do you say? Will you take the job? I had something more respectable in mind. It's better than nothing. I'll take it. 'Cause why not? Great, let me show you my mock-up for this week's issue. This week we're reporting an interesting case. It's linked to a murder that happened last summer, quite some time before you arrived here. Okay then. Back then we brought the news of a seasonal worker who fell victim to a violent attack on one of the local farms. It was late at night. He was on his way to his sleeping quarters after his shift ended, when suddenly he was struck from behind an anonymous assailant. Ina, in her apparent excitement, had begun tapping her right hand rhythmically against her shirt. His colleagues discovered him the next morning, more dead than alive. Well, yeah, that would do it. They transferred him to the hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Sadly, he was unable to give a testimony before he died. Oh. So he was alive for a little while, but not for long. Poor guy. Yeah, no kidding. That would suck. A full year has passed since the fateful night, so I decided to do diligence. I might have fucked up that last sentence. I went down to the police station to ask how the investigation into the attack was coming along. However, the receptionist told me that the case had been closed. Oh. Case closed, I asked her. Then who is the culprit? I'm assuming they don't know. But she said the perpetrator had never been found. Then when I asked her if I could see the case file, she mumbled something and directed me to the exit. Ina sighed. You know, sometimes, yeah, they don't give out that kind of information easily. I know exactly what goes down there. I know exactly what goes on down there. Here. My punctuation is not... I don't know how to English today, apparently. They never did have a proper investigation. Excuse me. You know, the guy who owns the farm where it all happened, he has ties to the town mayor. They're corrupt to the bone, each and every one of them. That sounds about right. Yeah. This place is ruled by a small caucus of cronies that can do as they like as long as their powers go unchecked. That's why we need a quality newspaper to shine the light in the darkness. That's understandable. I could detect a tremble in her voice. We really need a paper boy. Thanks. Do it for our community, Abe. Those poor wretches need you. Oh, well that's not nice. Then again, I don't know. Let's call everybody wretches. The afternoon was drawing to an end by the time I had already begun to notice the first signs of Ina's compelling presence, though I had ascribed it to youth eccentricity at the time, not paying it any further attention. Maybe she's hiding something. Wordlessly, we gathered our belongings, headed towards the stairs. Okay, so it's a school newspaper thing. I wasn't sure. Let's get down to business. We have just under 2,000 subscribers. I'll pay you 2 cents per paper delivered. That should add up a decent salary for a morning's work. Okay. I lost my mouse for a second. 2 cents per paper. And now remember, the printer will deliver tomorrow at 5 in the morning, so I want to see you here no later than 5:15. Got it. I'm not much of a morning person. I'm not. See you then. Okay. We're just gonna ignore that. That night lay in terminal pondering whether I should have even indulged in Ina's ridiculous offer. While necrotic continuous tapping played through my head like a stenotype. Morning came all too soon. Yeah. You're finally there. The delivery guy left ages ago. I could have used some help with those boxes. Ina didn't appear the least bit thrilled to see me. It's not like she doesn't look mad. She just looks sad. I'm sorry, okay? I told you, not a morning person. Especially when it comes to 5 in the morning. Screw that. I took the job, alright? Here's a list of all the addresses sorted by promixity to the school. Please try not to get lost. I'm off now. I have a lot of reading to catch up on. You can call me when you're done. Do I even have your number? She handed me a small business card with her number. Okay. Chief editor of Sunday Abbott was printed below her name in tasteful lettering. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the word tasteful when it comes to things like these. Oh, Jesus. I'm adjusting my seat. Alright. Where did my mouse go? Got it. I have a question. I do have a question. I do? Do I? Though she appeared anxious to leave, she turned around last moment hesitantly. Why are you hesitant? You literally hired me yesterday. Why is this so... Why are you being weird? You're being weird. I think she's hiding something. So, why is it called Sunday Abbott? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? Doesn't make much sense, does it? If it's delivered on a Saturday? That's just the way it's always been. We deliver on Saturdays and people read it on Sundays. Yeah, but why take like a whole week to read it? Some of our subscribers are very old-fashioned, you know. They wouldn't want us working on the Sabbath day. You know what? I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself. Anyway, good luck with your first day on the job. Yeah, it's literally my first day, so don't pull that attitude with me, alright? I don't do that. I resigned myself to the arduous labor. I don't know if I saw that correct. I don't care. Even though it was October already, an unnatural sticky heat permitted in the air that would make my work all the more unbearable. Yeah, it's not too bad. How quickly my situation had taken a turn for the worst. No more than 2 months ago I had been enjoying my life among the nation's elite, handed to a bright role on the world stage. I would be pained to see myself now spreading gutter journalism for the slave's wage. Oh, hello! But then out of nowhere, a snapping shadow lunged at me. That's typical. Hello, you're cute. The street erupted in violent mayhem as I fought to keep the razor-sharp fangs away from my jugular, using my messenger bag to shield myself from all of its devouring clutches. Aw, come on. It's cute. I was in a state of panic, frantically attempting to block its strikes as I sought a path to safety. I mean, without further hesitation, I leapt over the garden wall away from what I figured was the hound's territory. Don't call it a hound. It's a beautiful husky. He doing his job. He's not doing nothing wrong. Sigurd. Aw, his name is Sigurd? I must have... wait, what? I'm confused now. Is that his name or not? I must have ran at least 4 blocks before collapsing onto a playground bench. It took some time to come to my senses, all the while cursing Ina for not disclosing... Oh, Jesus. For not disclosing the dangers of the job. You know what? That should be more obvious to me. If I encounter one more dog today, I will definitely... You will not do. Sigurd. Over the sound of my heavy breathing, I could discern a fragile voice calling out. What? Sigurd. Who's calling? Please stop hiding, Sigurd. Who's yelling? Oh, hello. A girl appeared, her eyes as bright as the summer sky. That's true. She's cute. Hi there. Are you delivering the mail? I am. She seemed distracted by my sudden presence. No sign of her prior distress remained. So are you looking for... someone? Something? Calling it mail may be an overstatement. It's just a weekly paper. I left to work as a postman one day. The honor, the excitement, to see the delight in people's eyes when they receive life-altering news. Yeah, about murder! I let us a self-deprecating chuckle. I know someone you might like to meet. My boss? Maybe? Sigurd! Who is Sigurd? Who chews out again, the top of her lungs. Are you looking for someone? It's just my little brother, Sigurd. Oh, you're looking for a child. He loves playing hide and seek. He'd made me count to 100 this time, but then when I turned around, he had disappeared without a trace. Isn't that the object of the game? It is, indeed. But, it is still concerning. That was almost half an hour ago. Usually he doesn't stray far. See, that's concerning. That is very highly concerning. Well, I really hope you find him. I have to move on now. They don't pay me by the hour. That is true. Will you please look out for Sigurd? He's wearing a light red fleece. Okay. Like a scarf or a shirt or a hat. You never know. I told him it was too warm for his winter clothes, but he never listens. That is fair. Will you let me know if you see him? Absolutely. I like children. No, I don't. Don't lie to yourself. I don't like children. You're the best. Send him over here if you find him. Absolutely. Why would I not say, yes, I'll keep an eye out for him? Obviously. It's rude not to. Every mansion's... right? Yes, every mansion's had a garden, and every garden had a gate, and every cursed gate added 3 more seconds to my seemingly endless route. Yeah, but like, that's the job. I really didn't mind the apartment complexes, which was their letterboxes stacked conveniently together. But when these gardens are ruining my average, I was gradually coming to the conclusions that Ina had played me for a fool, when suddenly... Duggo! The infernal beast returned. Without abandon, it began fiercely snapping at my leg. Why are you being mean? There, Pyrus. The man's doing an important job. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Adaptedly, she wrangled the dog away from my quivering limbs. You're scared of a husky? I'm sorry, Pyrus is usually very kind, but it takes him a while to get used to strangers. That is fair. I am not in his daily life. Your dog has been terrorizing me all morning, madam. Oh, Pyrus isn't my dog. He lives here. The community has adopted him. Ah, you must be new to town. I'm Karen. I work for the city council. Welcome to the beautiful... nope. Of Abbotsford. I lost all confidence in trying to say that word. I'm so glad you're willing to do this job. I heard Ina has some unfortunate registrations as of late, but a small town like this really needs free press. That's fair. Ina mentioned something along those lines. Yeah, something. I handed her a paper. As I was going about to proceed my route, her eyes fell on the headline. Wait a minute. This seems interesting. What is it? Is it about murder? As she skimmed over the front page, a grave expression came over her face. This is very interesting indeed. What you've dug up here? I didn't do nothing. I just started today. You should be careful, though. This is a very small community. She uttered the warning with concern in her voice. Okay, why do you look like... I'm just a paper boy. I am just a paper boy. What does this have to do with me? I'm just doing my job. I know. I apologize. This really is very interesting. What is it? That's what I want to know. What is it? And with these words, she proceeded to head back towards the council building. Until I suddenly recall Maeve's words. Wait, have you seen a little boy somewhere around here? Oh yeah. She turned around, a meaningful expression appeared on her face. I figured you've run into May. You know May. Cool. Don't worry too much. Little Sigurd always shows up at the end. Yeah, but it's been a while, and usually these games don't take that long, you know? Yes, it's hide and seek. That's normal. But, if you're a kid playing with your older sibling, you're under the age of 10, and you know how to hide, that is terrifying especially for the older sibling. It's absolutely terrifying. Through the fortunate, I'm so confused. English is not working today. Why? Though the fortunate may be entitled to Sundays off, my fate is governed by a crueler power. If you want to experience hell on earth, I implore you to take a paper round. Okay. My hands lacerated, my legs buckling. Sigurd! Oh hey, May. You've come back. Sigurd, where are you, Sigurd? Please come out. Mom will be angry. Mom will be very angry. Her voice was reduced to a feeble wail. I hurried in the direction of the sound. Oh, she's crying. No, don't cry. Sigurd still hasn't come back. He's never been away this long. Watch, he's tailing behind her everywhere she goes, and that's how he's staying hidden. Oh my god, I would hate that. I love my siblings, but my god, I would hate them if they ever did that to me. She was teary-eyed, shivering like a newborn calf. Why are we comparing her to a newborn calf? I'd like to ask that. That's my question. What's going on? Excuse me. I would like my mouse to work, please. Thank you. Please, Sigurd, please. Sigurd! As she pleaded, her voice grew fainter, as though the last strength was slipping away. Until suddenly her eyes, which had been vibrant blue and heartbeat ago, turned to an ashen white. Why? A silent murmur escaped her lips. Sigurd, please. Sigurd, no. Don't. He's only 5. Please don't take him. Yeah, see, how I said about the whole if you're under the age of 10 and you know how to hide very well, this is what happens to your older siblings when you do that. It scares the living crap out of people. Having lost her prior vitality, May had become wholly possessed by a paralyzing trance. I don't blame her. Staring into her pale white eyes, I determined her essence was very far away from time, a faint light in the distance, close to dying out. Please, I promise he'll be good. Please let him stay with me. Sigurd. Oh, her knees buckled. Had I not been fast enough to catch her, she would have plummeted to the ground. Okay. As I stood there trying my best to keep her upright, I felt her strength gradually returning. Okay, good. As suddenly as it appeared, the entrancement seemed to dissipate from her body. I would hope so. She remained quiet for a very long time. I completely understand. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Her voice was calm, almost devoid of emotion. Honey, I'm sorry, I forgot. Sigurd isn't here anymore. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean? I apologize for causing you trouble. Are you okay? What? Hold on. What's going on? Is it like he died like a long time ago type thing? Is that what it is? And like her brain is like still in that grieving or like denial. Maybe it was like more recently rather than a while ago. I don't know. Some people's brains take that kind of stuff differently. 'Cause like, I know denial is like one of the like really big things going through grief. Is that what it is? Did he die and she's just not, and like she's still getting out of that like denial phase where he's like still around? Disappeared. I didn't read it. Shit. She disappeared into the night. That was it. And we're home. I picked up the phone. Where are you? What happened? I went home. Obviously, I flinched from the outrage in her voice. Nothing happened. I'm back home from a long day's work. But these boxes. There's still 3 boxes here. That means we have disappointed subscribers. I'm sorry. Ina, the job is killing me. I will be contacting the Civil Labor Board. You better finish this first thing in the morning. I swear, if we even have one canceled subscription over this, I'll be docking your pay till Christmas. Hey, that's mean. Sure, Ina. The cataclysms of abuse had ended. She remained quiet for a while before resuming in a more subdued voice. Please be here early tomorrow morning. We need to deliver the remaining papers before the fundies get up for church. Sure, Ina. Alright then. I'm just gonna leave it at that. So, like, what's going on with May, though? I feel bad. When Monday finally came, it felt like a welcome relief. I sat in class, dozing a little, plagued by the time of flashbacks for rabid dogs. Hey, he just needs to get used to you. That's all. A girl approached me after classes ended. Who was it? Hello. I understand how summer's drawing late, and we're all young and in our best spirits. I stared at her uncomprehendedly. I would too. Can I help you with something? I'd just like you to know that May isn't strictly off limits. I'm sorry, what? Is or isn't? Alarm bells went off in my head. What? Please tell me what's going on. What are you talking about? May, you saw us on Saturday, but I can assure you I only have the purest of intentions. I don't know what this is about. You think you can lie yourself out of this one? No. Just realize that this is a small community. Rumors travel fast in a place like this. Okay, what are you talking about? Why are we down here? If only she realized that romance was the furthest thing from my mind right now. She explained to me that May had a learning disability, and the school board was having trouble placing her in a suitable education. For the time being, May was being taught by a small group of church volunteers. Okay, when she realized that I was sympathetic to the situation, her overall stance softened. It's good to see a new face in school, so how are you enjoying the Isle of Abbott? So May has a slight learning disability. So she has trouble getting around when it comes to school. That's understandable. You know what happens? My name is Rika, by the way. Rika Cooper. I apologize for not introducing myself sooner. Pleased to meet you. I'm Abe, apparently. Abe Jensen? Oh, I've heard of your father would be coming. I heard your father would be coming. It's good to know he finally arrived. What? He should know my dad, the pastor in town? Cool. I'm afraid we're not a very religious family. Oh, he'll know my dad, I'm sure of it. Okay, good for you. Why do I care? As she stood there staring at me with a beaming smile. It was as if all her prior hostility had completely evaporated. Yeah, why is this happening? I'm dealing with the pastor's daughter. I should probably be on my best behavior. I wouldn't mind visiting your church someday. I mean, are these choices really that different, though? You know what? I could care less if you're the pastor's daughter, and I do have to be on my best behavior. Sure, why not? You know what? I'm down to make some friends. You'd be very welcome. Thanks. Can't say I'll stay. Religion is a lot less heavy when you grow up around it, you know? That's debatable. Due to my father's status, people have always treated me like a sacrosanct? I don't know. I give up. I totally give up on that. But to me, the Bible is like a wondrous storybook. It is. I take that back. Don't come at me for that. Just keep my comments to myself. Like I said, I'll just keep my comments to myself. A faraway glance appeared in her eyes. Okay, yeah. I've always loved to read about the fantastic creatures, like in Behemoth, and like the Behemoth and the Leviathan. Okay, what do those have to do with the Bible, though? Did you ever hear about the Leviathan? I can't say, she began to recite. I'm confused on what you're talking about. I've seen a great light in the sea. You may have seen the eyes of the Leviathan, for his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. When Leviathan is hungry, he emits a fiery breath from his mouth and causes the waters to have a deep to boil. She let out a dignified squeal of delight. That would give me nightmares. It would. Isn't it exciting? Oh, I wonder what the Leviathan felt like, submerged all alone in pitch black darkness. She ran her fingers tenderly through her flaxen hair. Flaxen? Okay. I'm not gonna question anything. And just when the quiet corridor erupted in vitrolic clamor. Hello. No loitering. Bleh. During club time. I need you in my office right now. Me or her? Ina? Oh, I'm glad to hear you found someone for the school paper. I'm not on the school paper. I'm not. I'm just delivering papers. It's not a school paper. It's an independent periodical with 2,000 paying subscribers. Okay, jeez. Come, Abe, follow me. I'm coming. Jesus. What you reading? Afraid she might ignite me in irate fury over my performance during the weekend, I timidly waited. Like the third time I yawned today. What the heck? Timidly waited for her to begin speaking. Oh, I didn't even get to comment on the fact that, I don't get that. So, was it Ray? Was Ray her name? I already forgot what it was. I feel bad. It's Pastor's daughter, but she's interested in things like the Leviathan, like stories like that. And I feel like that her dad might not be so okay with it. 'Cause, it's part of a whole different religion, and not saying that I'm not saying that that's what all pastor kids go through, because their parents are super strict and oh, this is your only religion, you can't look at anything else, and blah blah blah. I'm not saying that that's the only thing, but it happens sometimes. And usually it's the common thing. But anyway. Waited for her to begin speaking. Her initial outburst, however, appeared to have been transient in nature. She was just sitting there, paging through a heavy book. Yeah, what is the book about? That's what I'm curious. After what felt like an eternity, she began to speak. Did you notice the crickets yesterday? Crickets? What crickets? I remained silent, assuming no answer was expected. The crickets sing during July and August. It's a sound they make to attract potential mates. Yes, that's how animals work. They have their own special mating calls. I think I heard them chirping last night. Why am I yawning so much? I slept perfectly fine. Something this year isn't right. Their song tapered off a bit in September, but now they're out in full force again. I'm doing research on this for an article. It's a chore, so I'm going to ask you to take over some of my other duties. Okay. What kind of duties? I will need you to cover the weekly progress section this week. Am I getting paid for it? The what now? The weekly progress. It's a reoccurring additional editorial in which we write something about the local events or inhabitant of the town. Sadly, I inherited it from the previous editor-in-chief. It is a community favorite, so I haven't been able to cut it yet. Fair enough. But never mind, it's only 300 words. You can write about anything or anyone you see around town.
It seems perfectly suited for you. So just talking gossip about anything? I haven't agreed to any of this. That is true. If you want to keep your job, you'll have to be a team player. Okay, why are you the only one that's doing it? Does that mean I'll be paid? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Am I getting paid? Don't get any ideas. But she returned to her book. You're asking me to do extra work that you didn't hire me for. Assuming I was no longer needed, I excused myself, but on my way to the door, she called after me. Say, that girl you were talking to, what about her? Why do you care? Rika. Rika! What about her? That's what I just said. What did she say to you? I was silent for a second. Why do you care? Nothing much. She approached me in the hallway. She's talking about May. Apparently her family are involved with religion. I cannot English. Her father is one of the most powerful figures in town, the leader of Church Abbotsford. Whatever that means. I'm salty. Nina stared at me with intent gaze. I want you to befriend Rika. If you get close to her, we'll be privy to a trove of information on the sordid power structures within the community. We'll have so many exclusives. Wouldn't that be pretty much underhanding reason to befriend somebody? You're a journalist now. You have to play the game in order to get to the bottom of things. I thought I was just a paperboy. Befriend Rika, I'd be glad to. I thought I was just a paperboy. And a very bad one at that. I'm sorry. I had a bad first day. You know, I haven't been paid yet. She ignored my remark. It's only been one day, my dude. You don't get paid on the first day. There was something strange, Rika said. Was there? I believe she called the place the Isle of Abbot. Is it Isles or Isle? Does that make sense to you? The Isle of Abbot, that's just a phrase the old people use. Did you know this town was once surrounded by miles and miles of water? I did not. This place? You can't be serious. We couldn't be further from sea down here, she sighed. Well, then again, it's probably a long time ago. You may notice how the village of Abbotsford lies slightly elevated above the surrounding fields. Not really. Well, let me show you on the map. She browsed around her phone for a while and handed it to me. This is a situation as it is today. As you can see, the town of Abbotsford down there, surrounded by the sprawling farmland of the marsh holder. This little area, right there. However, it didn't always look like this. The marsh holder is an artificial island constructed during the first half of the 20th century. It was initially conceptualized as the way to meet rising demands for housing and farmland. An artificial island? How does that work? The lake used to be Island Sea, but they built the Great Dam of the North, severing the connection to the ocean. These were times of unfettered progress, and the national government didn't shy away from the major development projects. They steamed off large areas of water before proceeding to pump it dry. That's how the stretch of land was formed that would become the marsh boulder. It wasn't an artificial island, though. She took back her phone and called up a different map. Oh, so that's what it used to look like before, so all of that wasn't there. This is what it looked like before 1942. As you can see, there's no sign of marsh boulder yet. The lake of our Ale was still in Island Sea. The Abbotsfort was an island. Indeed, it was. A few graybirds' beards around here might still recall that day when the last of the water was pumped out, and their homestead was an island no more. Ina put her phone away and returned to her book, softly muttering to herself. That incense chirping, I can hear it everywhere. I wonder if they've entered the second mating season. Maybe Springle was right. Who's that? I left her office quietly. You confuse me sometimes, not gonna lie. As I walked back home that afternoon, my mind was preoccupied exploring all the different strategies I could employ to restore my lavish city life. You're not getting that back, bud. Sorry, it's not happening. I figured I'd stay at my aunt's house until I'd be able to finance a place of my own. That or I could find a comfortable bridge to sleep under. I don't think any bridge is comfortable. I was so preoccupied with my thoughts I didn't notice a familiar figure approaching. Who is it? Is it me? It is! Hi! Hi there. Come to the stones with me. What? I leapt back when I realized who it was. Sorry, I'm not allowed to talk to you. What? Are you joking? Who said that? The Cooper girl cornered me after class. She let out a childish giggle. Rika? Oh, she's just teasing you. Please come to the stones with me. No way, I'll definitely end with my head on a pike. If you're sure no one will catch us. Why not? I don't see any reason why I can't be friends with her. We'll be fine, there's no one around this time of day. Okay. Why am I not allowed near her again? All I know is that she has a slight learning disability, and that she might be in the process of grieving her younger brother. I followed her along the short country trail which led us to an opening into the trees. This is like the fourth time I've yawned. Jesus. In the center stood two massive megaliths, partly buried into the ground and surrounded. The surroundings seemed well maintained. Do you see the giant stones? There are many of them scattered across the island. Yes, that is how rocks work. I like to come here whenever I'm sad. They warm me up inside. Rocks warm you up inside? I'm confused. She was right. When I placed my hand on one of the rocks, I could feel it emanate a mysterious radiating heat. Oh, physically. Though I figured that it was likely due to the midday sun. That's true. So are you feeling sad right now? She blushed. No, I don't believe you. To be honest, I come here every night. It's not far from the farm, you know? It's fair. She gave me a tour of the archaeological sites, leading me around the megaliths at least 3 times. When she ascertained that we had observed the stones from every possible angle, she drew my attention to a small playboard. She appeared to have difficulty deciphering the writing. She looked up at me. Hey, what does that say? I bent over to look at the text, which appeared perfectly legible to me. I began to read. Swifter Brant culture. I decided to read on, not questioning her curious display of illiteracy. Hey, it happens sometimes, okay? I'm illiterate. It says here that these stones were erected by the ancient civilization See, I'm illiterate too. They used them as grave mounds and as a place to venerate their Chthonic deities. What? She was staring at me with a captive expression on it in her eyes. Please read more, read more. The Swifterbrant people lived here between 75,000 and 55,000 years ago during the early Neolithic. They were an early agrarian society that held livestock but also resorted to hunting at times. These megaliths were made from aren't native to the region, but were brought here from Scandinavia during the Ice Ages. Okay, that's interesting. It means they were carried here by large sheets of glacial ice. When the Sail Ice Age ended about 130,000 years ago, the rocks and the debris were caught in the ice, stayed behind. She stared off into the distance, making me fear for a second that she would revert into a mysterious episode again. Why does she look upset? Like on the night after I first met her. But she remained fully aware. Sorry, my ears started hurting really bad all of a sudden. She began to speak. Isn't that a beautiful thought? I'm sorry? You went from looking like you were upset to, oh, look, a dandelion. Are you okay, hun? When the Swiftbrant people found these stones, they had been lying here for more than 100,000 years. Yes. The centuries since then have passed into no more than a heartbeat. Then she erupted with a smile as bright as the setting sun. She's cute, though. It makes me so happy to think that these stones will still be standing here in another 100,000 years. Unless somebody moves them. Peoples will be moved and the kingdoms will fall, but these stones will remain. It will be like nothing has really changed. It's true. I couldn't say it was a reassuring thought that though I welcomed it at the time. It put my own growing issues somewhat into perspective. These stones would remain here long after I'd recover from the bankruptcy, long after the burden of my part-time job had inherited my spine. Herniated my spine. English is not on my side today. Long after I succumbed to ennui of the godforsaken backwater town, where a couple of oversized rocks were, for some reason, considered a major tourist attraction. I mean, yeah, if, like, a bunch of rocks have been there for, like, over 100,000 years, like, it's a little impressive. When the night fell, I brought May back to her parents' farm. Oh, I walked her home. That was sweet. As we walked in silence, I clutched my book bag tightly under my arm. My gaze wandered off into the fields, these endless fields of impervious green that tapered off into the nothingness. I thought to myself how straight they were, endued with the perfect geometric flatness, as though they had been carefully sleeked out by the towel of an obsessive god. Am I a poetic or something? Nice. Perfect. Cool. Part 2. Oh, my doorbell is ringing. I woke up to the furious ringing of the doorbell. As I hurried downstairs, haphazardly dressing myself en route, I wondered for a second why my father wasn't home. He wasn't a notoriously light sleeper. Yeah, no kidding. Hi. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a familiar face. It's Rika, right? She appeared far too excited to take her finger off the bell. Please stop pressing that. Oh, it's Ina. I'm sorry. Whoops. The article, have you done it? I want it at the publisher's by tomorrow. Why are you at my house? My semi-dormant mind was digging fruitlessly. The weekly progress article. Did you write it like I told you to? Tomorrow. I promise tomorrow. At the early hour, I didn't have the presence of a mind to throw up a fight. It better not be late. You literally gave me like 2 days to do this. But never mind that, I just received notice that our cover article has set the city council alight. What does that mean? It turns out that the farm assaulted wasn't an isolated incident. Mayor Linden had been receiving signals of a worker mistreatment throughout the year leading up to the murder, but he failed to act in a meaningful way. Then last year, the incident occurred. Okay. And now that the police investigation has come up with nothing, council members are beginning to openly question the mayor's efficiency. Do you realize our publication could cost him his career? Are we trying to do that? The most of her words flew straight by me, though I remembered her eyes burned bright like meteorites on a pale Wednesday morning. We should really be getting to school. Why? On our way to school, Ina wouldn't stop lecturing me on the various intricacies of the medical government. The trip had never felt so long. Voices within the mayor's own party are pushing him to step down. They consider the incident telltale sign of his continuing incompetence. Members of his own party, wouldn't that be counterintuitive? Well, it's complicated. Abbott Island Reformed commonly referred to AIR as the largest party in the town council. Its electorate consists of farmers and members of the church. But with its size come inner division. Of the 8 seats the party currently occupies, 4 are held by the members that represent the agriculture section. They generally come from arrogant families that serve as advocates for the family farming enterprises. The other 4 seats, however, are held by the Cooper family. These are the members of the church, mainly descendants of the original inhabitants of the island. That's fair. The current leader of the Cooper faction is John Cooper, Rieker's father. Whatever happened to the separation of the church and state? Ina pressed on, ignoring my remark. That is a genuine question, though. Even though they are the same party, there's tension between the Cooper faction and the Cooper faction is always tied to implement a strictly isolationist policy for the town, letting in a few outsiders as possible. The arrogants, however, rely on outside labor during the harvest season and generally more welcoming towards the newcomers. The current mayor of Abbott's Fort, and the area... I can't say it anymore. So the Cooper faction is weaponizing this affair in order to strengthen their position within the party. Okay. As always, they're taking advantage of each other. AIR has always been exerted undisputed influence over the town's administrative affairs. You can tell their power has never been contested by an actual free press. I believe there's much more to be uncovered by this matter. I'd like you to ask Rika out on a date. Why am I asking her out on a date? Suddenly, I was wide awake. Yeah, no kidding. We don't know each other. I don't think a date is appropriate. I have absolutely no intention of doing that yet, no. Oh, we'll see. We will not, because it's not happening. We arrived at school early. I'm going to head up to the office to change into that terrible uniform. I'll see you in class. We have class together? Suddenly she dove behind me as though she were hiding from something, and began to speak in a hushed voice. Look who's here, of all people. There, go talk to her. Oh, dear Lord. Then with these words she slid into a nearby entranceway. Hello, Rika. Abe, it's a pleasant surprise. I hope you've been settling in nicely. I see you're part of an early bird club. We practice with the swimming team on Wednesday mornings. There's a big championship coming up soon. Oh, you swim. She ran her fingers through her long black hair. I'm glad you're getting involved with the school paper. Personally, I don't really read it, but my father was absolutely lyrical about that covering piece you ran last night's issue. He can't stop gushing how much student journalism has improved over the last year. I laughed incredulously. All credit goes to Ina. I just see in a timely deliver. Well, he said your paper is an asset to the town. Okay. Come on, there's time left before classes start. We'll take a walk over the school grounds. I guess. Oh. So you know this place used to be an island, right? I nodded. Indeed. In the early 1800s, it was home. Hey, stop yawning. In the early 1800s, it was home to a community of about 400 fishing families. Life was tough, but they made an honest living. Periodically, storms would rage through Ala Bay, and the islanders protected Abbott against the water by erecting long barriers built out of wooden poles. But during storms, the barriers suffered. The islander would have to rely on donations from the mainland to restore them. In 1858, a highly turbulent year weathered rise. The Elizabeth flood swept over low countries, leaving a wake of annihilation behind. Part of the Abbott's fishing fleet was destroyed, most of the barrier washed away. Not much later, the government announced a full evacuation of island. The inhabitants were to be rehoused on the mainland. They said it was due to the increasing threat of storms and the feasible cost of restoring the wooden barrier. It was mostly the wooden barrier. They didn't want to have to pay for it anymore, obviously. However, some suspect that the persistent poverty of inbreeding on Abbott played an equally important role in the decision to evacuate. She missed that? I cannot English. She smiled a mischievous smile. Why are we smiling like that? So in the end, the island was left deserted? Not really. A group of 200 islanders stayed behind, all hardline members of the small Reformed congregation. The Church of Abbott was recently been ejected from the mainstream branch of Low Country Protestantism. These were troubled times, theoretically speaking. The church schemes were a common assurance. Anyway, the seceded congregation vowed to remain on the island. The government did nothing to stop them. For close to a century, they lived isolated lives with very little contact with the outside world. Until reclaiming the marsh order began in the 1940s, Abbott suddenly found itself floating in the sea of fertile soil. Farmers from the mainland migrated to Abbotsford to cultivate the fields. but the original inhabitants of Abbotsford, descendants of the islanders who seceded in 1858, observed the influx of newcomers with sorrow in their eyes. There was always been tension between the two groups. The farmers work hard, but they're blind to our heritage. A grave expression appeared on her face. The islanders were honest people. They'd never cover up a crime. You don't know that. The bell for first term rang. We headed back towards the school. By the time we made it upstairs, classes had already started. She turned to me. Do you know what's interesting? After the Elizabeth flood, Abbott was never struck by a storm again. So the entire evacuation had been for nothing? You could say so. Some of the more self-righteous members of our congregation speculated that floods were punished by a higher power. Punishment. There was no more need for them. After all, subversive elements had been extracted from the community. The kingdom of heaven is like a net cast onto the sea that gathered fish of every kind. When it was full, the fishermen hauled it ashore. Then they sat down and gathered the good fish into vessels, but cast the bad ones. Anyway, I have to go to class now. I absolutely love talking to you. Also, I was wondering. She paused for a second, tenderly winding her hair in her fingers. Would you mind going out for dinner this Saturday evening? My parents are attending a wedding. I hate to eat alone. I could detect a hint of anxiety in her voice. Ugh. I didn't even have to ask. Will you join me? Sure, why not? That's great. I'd love to learn more about you. I was struck by the candor of her sudden proposal, so struck that I had no choice but to agree, even though I realized I was playing directly into Ina's plans. That's true. But, I mean, why would you deny? Then again, it's no. Then it's a date. See you next Saturday. It's not a date, though. Do we have to call it a date? That's the thing. Does it have to be a date? With a nod of her head, she said goodbye. Not that I mind. Who would say no to a pretty girl? Ina pulled me aside the moment classes ended. She seemed nervous. Ooh. What's up? So, I shook my head in arrogance. I'm clicking off the screen. What did you manage to get out of Rika? She complimented on your journalism. I didn't really get anything out of Rika. Flattery. She did, though. Yeah, she would, wouldn't she? So tell me what you guys discussed. Though I still had vivid recollections of Rika's coiling hair, I had to admit the particularities of our conversation this morning had long since faded to the back of my mind. We talked about the town for a bit. And? I thought for a second. She said the Isle of Abbot was evacuated in the 19th century due to inbreeding. Does that make sense to you? Sure, they were all ravaged by a storm at the time, and only a small community remained, including the Cooper family. Well then, I don't think she told me anything of interest. I should be the judge of that. Blah blah. An awkward silence lingered. The newsroom was a mess. Every inch of the floor space was filled up with boxes, newspaper clippings, scattered pieces of clothing. So, I was wondering, what? When will you introduce me to the other editors on the staff? She flinched. It's not a school paper. I never said it was. We have got other editors, but mostly work from home. It's not like I could write everything myself. Then again, overachievers. I appear to have hit a nerve and begun to regret my line of questioning. I dug through my mind to find something else to cheer her up. I mean, it's not like what I said was wrong. Just asking. You know what? There was something strange Rika told me this morning. What? Something about the church schemes, just before the island was evacuated. She was a little vague on the matter. As expected, Ina appeared unnaturally interested. I mean, a scheme, you say, in the Church of Abbott. Rika said it was the reason some of the islanders stayed behind. Ina had begun browsing on her phone, while a soft murmur trickled from her lips. A church scheme that would seem highly unlikely, if only... There, I found something. It's called the Theological Inquiries into Congregation of the Church of Abbott. Is it relevant? Some more typing? I'm not sure. It could be. Inquires a big deal of the Reformed Church at the time. They could point towards the corruption of severe theological divergencies. The thing is, the Church of Abbott in the Cooper family has always held a pivotal position of power in this town. They are a church. Her eyes were glowing. Any dirt on them, old or new, will surely cause a stir, much more than any aberrant migration pattern of insects. What? I don't know if I read that right. She turned her attention back to her phone. There it is. They have a copy of the Unical Archives of Bremersburg. That's less than 20 minutes away by train. We'll go there on Friday. Why, on Friday? Don't we have school on Friday? Oh, but this is more important than school, is it? Is it really? And besides, we got a lot of time from the mandatory club activities. It's fair. As we headed downstairs, I noticed she was trembling with excitement. Let's over to my house for now. I want to run some ideas by you. I wasn't in the mood to protest. Her house had a well-kept appearance to it, sterile almost. As she led me into the living room, I noted a hint of sadness in her eyes. After praying, she told me her mother was touring at the moment and she was famous conductor, Nina Mengelberg, currently serving as the musical director of Wiener Philharmonica Austria. I told her I had seen her name on a playbill once, when I still lived in the city. So her mom's famous. This is my room. I hate it though. Empty houses give me the creeps. That's why I'm usually at the office. Fair. She produced a large book from her bag, the same one that I had seen her reading at school. What book is it? I'm reading Oswald Spengler at the moment. Untergang des Abendlandes. I haven't made it past the second chapter. She folded it up to a page that she had marked with a slip of paper. A boundless mass of human being flowed into a stream without banks. Upstream, the dark past wherein our time senses loses all power of definition and restless or unease fancy conjures up geological periods to hide away an eternal unresolvable riddle. Downstream, a future even so dark and timeless, such is the groundwork of the Fontaine's picture of human history. She closed the book and handed it to me. Why are you giving me this? Modern man's yearning for infinite progress. His philosophy in nature. Spurred by his endless aspirations, humanity involuntarily seals its own fate. We have left the natural state far behind. We couldn't return even if we wanted to. What is the natural state? Being has been altered irredeemably. Irredeemably. Right? I don't know. I'm sorry I dragged you down here. That's okay. I'm wondering why we're in your room. I know you're not really interested in the newspaper business. It's just, I talk in myself whenever I'm catching on to something great. I don't have someone else to talk to. It drives me insane. I gave her a reassuring nudge. I guess you know my predicament? She smiled. You know? I have a feeling this church piece is going to be big. Bigger than anything we've done before. Bigger than the Sanford House event. What is the Sanford House event you keep talking about? Is that the murder? It was out before I realized what I was doing. Didn't I tell you? Our exposing the Sanford House event was our finest hour. The scoop that truly put the Sunday Abbot on the map. Right. It was around the time last year in the Evening Mirror, a smutty tabloid published a series of compromising photographs of an influential Abbotsford politician. The photos were taken inside a notorious carpet club. Cabaret club, where he was being courted by an dancing girl. So, a stripper. The politician was in question was named Leopold Marquis of Abbott. To be precise, a member of the nobility. He still holds a seat in the Abbotsford City Council. Leopold hails from the old lineage of Lords of the Isles. He has quite a reputation of a party animal, and for that reason the incident initially blew over without much ado. But 4 months later, we received an anonymous package at the office. It was another set of photographs placing Marquis Leopold at a lavish party inside Sanford House, one of the oldest mansions of Abbotsford. There was more girls present during this occasion, and the Marquis appeared to be fully inebriated. In a note, the anonymous source explained that Marquis Leopold had been carrying classified documents with him on the night he attended Sanford House. But after his hedonistic party, the source wrote, his briefcase and the documents contained were nowhere to be found. Interesting. We ran an absolute bombshell of an article. Apparently, Marquis had indeed lost classified policy papers on the fateful night, and to make matters worse, he hadn't notified the council of their disappearance. It had become a lot harder to forgive the Marquis decayant escapades where the political integrity of the community was at jeopardy. Ugh. The Cooper faction initiated a charge declaring that the Marquis' conduct was unworthy of a Christian political party. They had a field day with the whole affair. So did Leopold lose his seat over this? He didn't. He was elected official after all, and they were therefore protected by the Constitution. However, his position with a air has become precious since the affair. I doubt he'll return after the elections. She stopped abruptly, looking down, then up at me again. I'm probably boring you. It's okay. You should be on your way home. I'm going to read some more Spinkler before going to bed. But you said you had ideas to run by me. What were the ideas? I spent most of Thursday afternoon loitering around town, trying to find something or someone to write my weekly progress article on. Sadly, as I searched in vain, it began to dawn on me that Ina had uploaded this piece on me. Why Ina had uploaded this piece on me? Absport really didn't have any progress to report. Then, in a flash in the corner of my eye, "No, move away, hellhound. I'm not even working today." "Pirates, leave the man alone." As soon as the massive Voorhees entered the scene, the dog became docile as a lamb. "Hi, Karen. Thanks for coming to my rescue again." "I feel like he's warming up to you. He didn't even bite at you this time. So what brings you here today?" "Ina's making me write an article. It can be about any person or event in town. The thing is, it's due today." "You wouldn't be referring to the Weekly Progress, would you? That's a local favorite. Ina must have a lot of faith in you to entrust you to such an important piece of journalism." I could tell she was counseling and... Ugh. "Anyway, if you want, you can write an interview. You can interview me. It may help my re-election if I get some positive press out. Maybe you could write the whole thing for me?" Oh, that's me. I was like, she burst out laughing. "Come on, let's go to some place where we can talk." "Sure." "Ooh, this cute little cafe." She let out a long sigh. "Small town politicians can be a headache. That piece you guys published last week, to be fair, it's not quite. It caused quite a bit of a commotion." "Hey, he did that to himself, alright?" She adopted a more serious demeanor. "Let me state first and foremost that our party has always been proponent in the free exchange of labor." "Right. Absport has some of the largest farms in the region, so come August there was huge demand for seasonal workers." "What party are you in?" "Abbott Island Reformed. Laborers come here all the time. Come here from all over the Low Countries, may even form further afield. The work offers them an escape from poverty. It is our greatest interest that they're treated well. The thing is, not everybody is as welcoming towards outsiders. Over the last years, the new political movement has been growing in membership. Flock of Five, they're called. They were founded in 2005. Flock of Five takes a more cautious stance in our labor migration. They claim the seasonal workers constitute an unnecessary burden on our local and frustration. There was a small incident. Not for long, their party was founded, in which the group farm workers have been caught stealing food from local stores." Yikes. "It was a petty theft, but Flock really went to town with it. They managed to convert the incident into a large electrical windfall." Hey, I mean, people gotta do what they gotta do to survive. "Do you think people from Flock of Five are behind the murder?" "No, I don't really want you writing that. It's just that this subject matter is more complicated than it seems. Air has always protected the rights of all farm workers, but the general attitude has been shifting lately." "What about the Cooper faction?" "The Cooper what?" "The Cooper faction in your party. What's their stance on labor migration?" "I'm afraid you're misinformed. Air is one party. We don't have factions." She began speaking in a hushed voice. Look, I understand you guys feel involved. I'll tell you more. But you'll have to consider it off the record. I smiled. No problem. I have more than enough material as is. It's a very painful incident for our mayor. The farm murder occurred on property that had belonged to his brother. Oh. I nodded. Now, several voices are implying that the police investigation into the abuse was intentionally halted by the Mayor Linden and the chief of police. But I know the mayor. He wouldn't do such a thing. After the assault, the victims' co-workers returned to their hometowns. They weren't available for further questioning. The police closed the case because they really don't have any more leads. And the mayor's brother? What kind of person is he? I'm not sure. She paused. He works his people hard, a little too hard at times, but he's not a sadist. He wouldn't do that to anybody. You don't know that. I mean, you just said that you don't really know him. Anyway, I need to get back to work. If you guys want, you're welcome to come over to my place for coffee sometime. I can imagine Ina would love a source inside the council. Yeah, probably. Ooh, subway train. We left school during lunch break. Outside the community hours, the train to Bremersburg only ran sporadically. We had to rush to make it on time. Clicked on the wrong screen. Hold on, make it a little bit bigger. I loved your article. Thanks. I tried. She appeared reluctant to admit it, like a child enjoying broccoli. It had its flaws, of course. It's just I never thought about using the weekly progress section in that way, for actual journalism. I just happened to bump into Karen. We shot past miles and miles of farmland. Ina had begun murmuring to herself. I haven't seen any bees this year. There were a few last year, but none this summer. It's just crickets now. You know, they kept me up last night? The crickets and their maddening song. It was like 1,000 voices crying out in terror, as if they can sense their impending death once winter comes. If winter ever comes. I shrugged. I spoke to the archivist on the phone. He confirmed that the publication should be there. Alright. It's part of a larger collection of the church inquiries that were commissioned by the Presbytery of the Low Countries after the section of 1834. The Reformed Church had always been prone to schemes. In 1834, however, congregations ceded at once, out of the dissatisfaction with liberal tendencies with Reformed theological at the time. During the sequence decades, there were more churches followed in their wake, to the point where reigning pastors felt it was time to take action. The Reformed Church isn't a centrally coordinated institution due to the particular state of affairs. However, the remaining pastors agreed to converge in what was named the Presbytery of the Low Countries. Okay. That resolved to the route of churches that appeared to stray from mainstream Protestant theology. by proactively excluding troublesome congregations of a church, hoped to end the border trend of insurgency once and for all. The document will be consulting in a church inquiry commissioned by this very presbytery. It pertains to the congregation of on Abbott Island, led by the Reverend John Cooper. It would eventually lead to their exclusion from the Reformed Church. This all took place in 1857, not long before the evacuation of the island. Is John Cooper... Yes, her great-great-great-great-grandfather, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around there. It's close enough. We made our way towards the archives. The city was noisy as usual. Sorry. I apparently didn't send the text when I meant to. Wrapped in the sound of countless invisible cars, each attempting to find its way to the chaotic post-war street plan, it appeared completely amorphous to me, like an college of leftover parts of other cities that lacked any single differentiating feature. The Monaco archives were curated by the University of Bremersburg. We made our way through the few galleries of national history. Jeez. Exhibits until we reached the library. Okay. Without much as looking around, Ina went up to the archivist and asked him for the document she was looking for. He eyed her up with a bemused glance in his eyes. So you're the students that made the reservation for the theological inquiries? Sure, is there a problem? He chuckled. Oh, not at all. It's just that we don't get many requests for these dusty church annals. He left briefly to dig up an old book. Here it is. It isn't available for loan, so you'll have to consult it at one of our reading tables. Alright. We sat down. Oh, that's cute. From the moment she opened the heavy, leather-cladded book, a musty fragrance poured forth from its yellow pages. In a hushed voice, she began to read. Journal of the Reverend Thomas W. H. Becker. Inquire for the presbytery of the Low Countries. Saturday. I'm gonna sneeze. No, I'm not. Rude. Saturday, 19th of September, 1856. We set sail early in the morning to favorable winds and quiet waters. Okay. Aboard where the captain, Jan H. M. Bourne, and his two crew members, a traveling merchant, some islanders, and the gentleman Marcus P. Brascart, who would be serving the island as a replacement school teacher. You're excused to read silently if you want. Let me skip ahead a bit. With good south winds behind us, it took less than half an hour to catch the first sight of the isles in the distance. As we approached Abbott, we struck harsh and impetuous waves I didn't read the last bit of that, but that's okay. Within a matter of minutes, the formerly peaceful sea had erupted in a fierce tempest, rocking our ship to and fro. Though we, as passengers, were distraught by the sudden onset of the storm, our captain reassured that sudden gales were not uncommon in the Strait of Albay. But as I lay cooped up in the ship's stern, I prayed feverishly for our safe voyage. There appeared to be no end to the tempest. As I had a clear view of the fragment of my hiding place, I began to notice that the storm was imbued with a strange quality of sorts. For although the sea was unruly turmoil, erupting in the waves and eddies of violent fervor, yeah. The sky above remained blue and completely devoid of wind. It was though not a gale or a submarine vortex was kicked up these crashing waves, and when I gathered the courage to look overboard, I fancied at times that I could see a thin black ripple coiling through the waves, glistening. Whenever it broke the surface in a ever-dazzling sun. It took us the greater part of an hour to reach the harbor, and when the ship finally moored, the tempest came to a halt. In a matter of minutes, the waves disappeared, and the sea returned to its original calm, as though no storm had ever laid its hands upon it. That's how they work, usually. Scores of the islanders spilled from their houses to congregate around the pier. Immediately I could discern the tall figure of Reverend Cooper, with his chalk-white hair that appeared to glow against the black of his casket. I completely butchered that word. Standing with outstretched arms as if to bless the ship. She read silently for a while. Thomas stayed at the manse where the Cooper family provided him with a food and dry clothing after his dire journey. He described Reverend Cooper as a dignified gentleman. He takes a special note of Joanne's daughter, Hendrika, a charming, though secretive young woman with flowing black hair. Then it skips over to Sunday morning, when Thomas will attend his first service on the island. I attend Sunday service next morning. Observance proceeded in great solemnity. Can't talk today, apparently. In commemoration of 2 fishermen who had succumbed to the sea last week. The sermon contained many nautical themes, alluding to both calling of the fishers and the beast Leviathan. However, I believe this to be nothing out of the ordinary for seafaring communities. So they have like a legend or something with a Leviathan, something like that. All Monday morning, the 2 men conversed together, delving deep into Cooper's religious techniques. Let me skim through this part quickly. After what felt like a century, she looked up at me and began reciting. What I've come to learn is worrisome. I can only conclude that Cooper's theology, in its essence, lacks the so many big words underpinnings of our shared faith, substituting these core tenets with a view on historical redemption that is a clinical
that is clinical to nature. For Cooper in the New Testament culminates seamlessly into the book of Job, leading all of the biblical history, including the synoptic Gospels of the New Covenant, to recur again and again infinitely. I did not pronounce that correctly, I know. Based on our conversation, I'm inclined to agree with the compliant that the creed of the proclaimed on the island is fundamentally alien to the doctrine axioms set forth of the canon of Hillsborough. I am even inclined to doubt Cooper's worldview of fully something. After luncheon, I rescued myself for an afternoon walk in order to meditate on our conversation. As I made my way to the perimeter of the island, looking out onto the glittering endless sea, I couldn't help but notice that I was being trailed by a dark figure. Is that the girl? I turned around just in time to catch a glimpse of Hendrika leaping behind one of the gargantuan stones that lie scattered across the aisle. It is the girl. I called out, asking if she would care to join me, but she let out a shrill laugh and ran away, with her black hair trailing behind her. Oh? Ana pulled a concerned face. That's strange. There isn't much to report. Excuse me. Ugh, my bad. That's strange. There isn't much to report. He skips over a few days and then recounts the last meeting the two men had on Friday evening. I am now confident to write that the Reverend Cooper and I have reached a mutual degree of understanding. Cooper has further clarified his theological position to me, and I am fully confident now that his doctrines are wholly in accordance with the three forms of unity, in no way contradicting our shared formed confession. I believe Cooper is a fine man who operates as a good shepherd for his congregation. Our prior misunderstandings appear to have derived from my own ignorance of logical culture and customs, not from any fundamental unorthodoxy within the religion teaching of the church and abbot itself. In conclusion, I therefore recommend that no punitive or expulsory action is taken against the Reverend Cooper and his She put down the book. That's strange. Did you notice anything? Sounds pretty tame if they got in trouble for this. I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I was listening. I mean, yeah. It does, doesn't it? And the sudden change of the tone at the end. I did not understand the source statement that was reformed by Church of Abbot was rejected based on this report. However, the conclusion doesn't point in that direction at all. I have no idea why this would be the cause for the abbot to be cast out of Pepper's-Tree. Especially if, it sounds like everything was okay in the end, so why did it happen? This trip appears to have been a waste of time. Let's head back to the station. Was it? It's hard to tell. Lethargically, Ana went up to return the book. We're on our way to the exit when a figure approached us. Hey, it's cool if you guys have taken an interest in these old pieces of bookkeeping. As I said, these are things that haven't been requested in decades. You must be historia buffs, right? Ana eyed him up suspiciously. We're conducting investigative journalism to the Church of Abbot. Abbot? He went silent for a while, as though trying to remember something. I guess the report on them is pretty boring. Ah. I wouldn't say. She pulled me by the sleeve, signaling that we should leave. I remember there was more to that story, though. There should be an audium somewhere, some notes that were left out in the public report. With this, he appeared to have caught Ina's attention. They're pretty rare, though. I believe only 2 copies were ever printed. And where may we find these copies? Good question. He headed back to his desk and spent some time browsing on the catalog. One is in the private library of the Council of Reformed Churches. You could try petition them, however. And the other? The other was sent to the Isle of Abbot in 1857. The town had the right to know why their church was being rejected from the presbytery. If it hadn't been pruned from the collection, it should still be in the town archives. Well, that's all we needed to know, dear man. And you could have saved us a lot of time by telling us. These were words, and with these words, she was out the door. Oof. I thanked him briefly before running after her. On our way back to the station, we passed a small, instinctive-looking theater. Ana nudged me. Look, this is the nightclub I told you about. The one where the Marquis was spotted. It looks as grimy as ever. We were just in time to catch a 6 o'clock train. Throughout our return voyage, I could hear Ina mumbling to herself in excitement. Saturday came. I set to work. Everything went noticeably smoother than last time. I was struck by the sad realization that I must be becoming experienced paperboy. After my workday ended, I returned home for a shower and a change of clothes, after which I briefly spoke with my father. I brought up how he hadn't been home lately much, but he told me not to exaggerate. That it was actually I who was away all the time. Though I was dumbfounded that was the case. I sensed there was little or no point in arguing. I was like, okay. A little rude. Sure. When I arrived at Omofega, Omofega was one of the few licensed establishments in the town. Rika sat waiting for me. Also, we did go to a restaurant. I assumed, well, there was the option, there's restaurants in this place, but, for some reason I figured we'd go to her house and eat. Are you hungry? We should order some side dishes. The fresh anchovies here are excellent. I nodded in agreement. Anchovies are good. I like those. As I settled in, Rika sat staring at me. Beaming in a playful anticipation, she let out a restrained cough. So I heard you've been hanging out with May again. I just ran into her, that was it. Your spies are doing excellent work. She laughed. Oh no, it's not like that this time. May told me herself, in fact. She hasn't stopped talking about you since last Tuesday. Your misadventures among the Megalithias and such. Gently, she had begun brushing her fingers through her onyx hair. The subtle, repetitive motions exuded a soothing calm, as though she were comforting a frightened creature. And I think that may not be so bad. It's good for her to have someone to converse with on her level. What do you mean on her level? She giggled. Oh, don't take that the wrong way. It's just that May's always been a bit of a loner. Because she's never attended regular school. She hasn't had the chance to make friends among her peers. But for you as an outsider, it should be the same. Oh, well, thanks. Just let me know if she becomes a burden.
okay?
She's not a burden. What are you talking about?
I nodded, not really sure if that point had already been reached. But tell me, how did your work day go? No big headlines this week? I tried to frame offensive at her statement. Foreign offensive. How dare you say such a thing? Didn't you read our exclusive report on the migration patterns of a Harry Walker dragonfly? I will. She turned her attention towards the laminated menu, her bottom lip pouting in disinterest. The restaurant wasn't anything fancy, Italian in name only. Well, that's lame. Don't you think the headline will cause any trouble this time? She looked up at me. And that's good. We don't want trouble down here. I guess. That girl Ina, she really attracts trouble, you know? To be fair, what Ina does is her own fault. I'm just trying to work. I feel like she seeks it out at times. We have a gentleman in town who caused an embarrassment last year. Ina, of course, wrote all about it. Well, then that was his fault. She flapped her hand rapidly as if shaking off a disgusting substance. To think he considers himself nobility. Nobility? You wouldn't be referring to the Marquis of Abbott, would you? Oh my, Ina has been mentoring you very well. The current lord of the island is quite the character indeed, though I wouldn't say he deserves his title. Well, considering he lost a bunch of important and classified documents, he shouldn't be where he's at. But it's not our problem, is it? From the late Middle Ages onward, his clan ruled the island. They owned most of the island over here, but only to collect taxes. They lived on the mainlands on a larger estate near the... And to finance their lavish lifestyle among the nation's elite, they leeched off the poor fishers and clergymen of Abbott. But the lords never contributed to anything of the substance. She smiled. You can imagine how distraught they were when the decision fell to the evacuation in 1858. With the fishers leaving Abbott, there was no source of income left. The waitress came to bring us our side dishes. To stay out of poverty, the clan sold about half of the island to the Church of Abbott, whose members would remain on the island. Their glory days were indisputably over, as they had to live frugally in their castle, which began to crumble from neglect. Things changed, though, after the reclamation. In 1947, when the marsh boulder fell dry, Marcus of the Abbot was the one first to return to Abbotsford. To lay claim to the part of the island his family was still legally entitled to. Lewis played an important role in developing Abbotsford in the 20th century. It was in his interest that the housing prices rose and that the family could collect their rent again. Also, side note, it interests me that in the 1900s they called it the 20th century, and now we're in the 2000s and we're calling it the 21st century. I find that so weird. I don't understand why it's always a year. When we refer to it, it's technically the year before, after. Sorry, the year after. It's so weird. It was in his interest. He turned to Abbotsford into the mayor
inviting farmers from all over the Low Countries to move here. He had a little boy with him at the time, young Leopold, a spoiled brat even at that age. Yeah, I mean, rich people do tend to spoil their children a lot more, just because they have the money for shit. They're like, oh yeah, here you go. Get out of my face. She paused for a second to move the plate of fish in my direction. I can imagine the native population wasn't too happy about that. They weren't. Initially, there was a lot of strife. As more and more farmers arrived, the newcomers began to outnumber the original islanders. Now, politically, Ayr has always been maintained complete control of the town council. The islanders feared that the farmers would form their own political movement and they would be able to seize power. So how did that work out? Well, it wasn't all bad. Since the evacuation, the church was the second largest landowner on the island. The inflated housing prices were good for us too. In the end, Marcus Lewis played an important role in reconciling the two sides. The Arrogans were welcomed within Ayr as long as they agreed to not occupy more than half the seats in the council. This meant the church would retain control of the state of the affairs of the island, while the newcomers still felt represented. So that was how the two factions within the town council arose. Ayr doesn't have factions. All politicians operate in the best interest of the community. She winked. Except for Leopold, of course. His blemish on our town. I wouldn't mind you writing another article on him. Let me know if you need more information. I was beginning to realize that her loose tongue didn't necessarily stem from the wine or the amicable atmosphere. It was like the information she was disclosing was being carefully measured out. We sat in silence, eating fish, while we gradually grew dark outside, and she gently wiped her mouth on a napkin and looked up at me. Is there anything else you would like to know? Is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Oh, plenty. It's just that I'd like to stay one step ahead of Ina's games. While I was surprised at her sudden change in manner, I managed to remain collected. It's getting very late. I have to be at church tomorrow by 9 a.m. She smiled a faraway smile. Can you imagine what it's like? A reclamation like that? Can you imagine how it would feel? You've been living your whole life on a secluded island, and then suddenly you witness the waters drop around you, until it's all left with an endless wasteland of sinkable marshes. The people here had spent their lives in the midst of a majestic area, but in the period of less than a year, all of that would reduce to a swamp strewn in decaying fish corpses. I stared at her in silence. I would too. Jeez. There have always been higher powers that decided over the people of Abbott. Be it the lords, the national government, the priesthood of the churches. But through their inhumane treatment of the islanders, they have sown the vines of which the grapes of wrath would grow. It left them feeling futile and angry, hopeless against the forces that would be. She sighed. For some reason, it strengthened their faith. They realized that they'd have to rely on a far higher power to deliver them from the tyrannical pharaohs. The nation inhabitants of Abbott truly feel they are God's people. It's interesting. Without asking, she applied the last of the fish on her fork, bringing it up to her mouth in one motion. After swallowing, she resumed her monologue. During the reclamation. Why are we talking about this, by the way? I figured, we'd have a nice date, but we're solely talking about the stuff that happened before. How are you doing today? Can we talk about that? How was your day? Just wondering. During the reclamation of the Marsh Polar, as the workmen built the long embankment that would keep the water out, incidentally, strange reports would emerge. What kind of strange reports? I looked up from my drink. The men would experience an impromptu storm, the suddenly succession of the roaring eddies that inhabited work for as long as they persisted. Thing was, these storms were highly localized. They would even occur on the most tranquil of days, when there wasn't a gust of wind in the air. I think they described the phenomenon as ocean occurrence, sent wayward by an altering flow of the great rivers. However, that doesn't sound at all like what workmen described. They spoke out raging tempest of huge waves. She took out her purse and placed a 50 on the table. Anyway, I had a great time, Abe. I'd love to do this again. I thanked her and told her I felt the same way, and then reached for my wallet to pay my share. Save your hard-earned money. My dad said he'd cover the tab. I grumbled appreciatively. I would too. I hate that. I don't like it when people pay for me. Like, I appreciate it, but like, bro. I was awoken at 9 by church bells, after which I fell back asleep until I had woken for a second time by the bells for our noon service. For a brief moment, my heart went out to Rika Cooper, who is likely expected to be present and presentable for all of today's service, until I dozed off yet again, to be woken exclusively this time by a mysterious ticking against my bedroom window. When I made it out of bed to open the curtains, I saw May standing outside, dressed head to toe, immaculately black. What? Hi. Why are you dressed like that? She told me. Rika finally told me. I poked and pestered her throughout the service until she finally agreed to give me your address. I think she was embarrassed in front of the congregation. I tried throwing stones at each of the windows. Isn't your father home? I grumbled a reply, still half asleep. It's Sunday afternoon. Let's go on an adventure. Have you had lunch yet? Don't worry. I took some peppermints from church. Oh. She's dressed in all black to go to church? My groggy state, I trailed her through the deserted streets. From her determined gait, I could tell she was leading me somewhere. It wasn't long before we left our drab suburban state behind to enter a patch of bushwood that bordered the village. Ooh! She stopped for a second and handed me some mints. They stood out chocolate white against her jet black dress. So what's with the depressing outfit? You had a funeral this morning? Oh no, we always dress in black for church. If there had been a funeral, they'd make me wear a veil. Oh. Giggling, she placed a mint in her mouth and took off again. Usually black is solely for funerals and stuff. Veil included or not. But that's interesting. On the other side of the trees lay a rolling meadow. It's not far beyond here that the landscape made a sudden steep drop into the endless stretches of farmland that formed the remnants of the former sea. Hurry up. I could barely make out her golden hair in the blinding autumn sun. It wasn't much later that we reached what appeared to be the destination of our journey. You've led me to a pile of stones again. Not just stones. A dolmen. Can't you tell by the way that they're stacked? Though smaller than the megaliths. Megaliths. There we go. She showed me last week. The stones had indeed been piled up to form a tiny abode.
Excitedly, she pulled my hand. We're not going into that. Look, S. An S. She pointed at the crude S-shaped pictogram engraved into the surface of the stone rocks. Doesn't look like an S. Apps for it spelling ace is at it again. What? I don't want to be mean. It does look like an S. Okay. Doesn't it? Figuring May had brought me here for her personal translator, I walked over to an obligatory tourist sign and stood a few yards from the archaeological site. Dolmen M4, commonly referred as the S Dolmen, likely built as a megalithic tomb by the members of Swifter Brant culture, dated around 3500 BC. I skimmed over some further text. I'm gonna skip this. I'm gonna have smart symbol identified clans during late blah blah blah. Common placement is They stood there, slinking down in disappointment. What's wrong? So the S is not an S? I read on. These stones stood quite close to the shore when this was still an island. Did you know Absfort used to be an island? No. She was looking at me all glassy-eyed. She's so cute. You didn't know? What do these people teach you? No. Not an island. Abbott was connected to the mainland once. Her voice was no more than a whisper. Huh? Before I knew it, her eyes turned cloudy pearl. She had drifted off, a faint smile on her face. Oh, you're doing it again. We were playing here on the beach, Sigurd and I. I had 4 younger brothers at first, but 3 of them died in infancy. Sigurd survived, though. Sigurd was the strongest. We dragged a fallen tree far into the water that day and pretended it was a sea monster. I already knew that he'd be leaving soon. I remember his hair, how it shone bright in the sun on the last summer day. Her expression darkened. Sigurd, I prayed so long for your return. I would pray here by the stones. I prayed by the Chthonic gods who dwelled through the immersible depths. Sigurd was sent away to live in an aligned tribe. It was a ritual we performed whenever the eldest son turned 7. It was meant to strengthen regional bonds and to prevent madness. So there was some kind of ritual. Sigurd, I prayed so many nights. After that, May remained silent for a long time. It wasn't until the sun began to set that the color in her eyes returned. Oh, don't cry. During that moment, she looked vulnerable, helpless, and though she couldn't begin to fathom the intricacies of the episode, the mysterious absence that came over her, I helped her to her feet, supporting her as we slowly, wordlessly commenced our journey home. Aww. So I'm guessing that maybe something went wrong during, like, that whole ritual process. Not looking to run into anyone in town, we took the long route home, around the perimeter of the former land. After a while, I became aware of May's gentle humming in my ear, and by that time we had made it to her parents' farm. She appeared to have returned to good spirits. Thank you for bringing me home, Abe. I had a really great time at the shore. Though I was caught off guard at the time, I was happy to see that she had regained her cheer. Do you want to come to the lake with me someday? The water should be still warm like summer. She appeared almost drunken with fatigue. Will you come with me, Abe? The lake is so big, like the ocean almost. Will you come with me? She's so cute. It's really time to go to bed. Like right now? Because I would love to. It's really time to get you to bed. But like... Oh, hold on. Like right now? Or later? I'm confused. I mean, I would love to, but like, if you're having a rough time right now, you need to go to bed. What time is it? Oh, jeez. Because if it is a situation where it's like right now, there's a chance that something could happen to her. Because I just said that she seems drunk with fatigue, and she needs rest. Yeah, but like, what if she ends up going alone? That's the thing. I don't want her to go alone. Damn it, what do I do? I don't know what to do. And I don't know if she'll listen to me if I said you go to bed. I mean, I would love to go to the lake with you, but like, not right now. It's late, and you need to go to bed. Okay, hold on. Oh, okay, so it does automatically save. Save that right there. Okay. If anything, I can probably come back to it. I'm gonna go with her. Thank you, Sigurd. Oh, honey. Cheerfully, I bade her goodbye and headed back towards town. Okay, so it is later on. Police sirens wailed in the distance as I drew closer to town. I followed them into the main street where I nearly knocked down by a small dark figure. Nina, there you are, finally. We need as many reporters at the scene. Scene? Didn't you read my message? There had been an attack on Kieran Voorhees' house. I did not get your message. Hey, perfect all around. Aw, thank you for playing early access version of Deluge. Fully in 2022. Next year? We'd love to hear your thoughts on the game in contact via. Okay. For credits, please check out the about the section. Aww. That was really cool. I actually liked it. I like that a lot. Definitely go check out their game. It's on Steam. It's free to play. I'm actually looking forward to playing more of it. That was really fun. But as of right now, thank you for watching the video. And we'll come back with another one. And hopefully when this game is finished, we can finish it out. Alright? Goodbye.